What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. We're, of course, going to be talking about the NBA Finals as that has been going on, and the Nuggets go up 3-1. We have an NFL Would You Rather segment of questions that we have curated, and we will save those as a little bit of a surprise for you. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up with our mailbag, as we've been trying to get you all more involved in the show. We'll be pulling questions from our Twitter today. So if you want to be involved in stuff like this in the future, make sure you're following at StayHotPod on Twitter. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this fine Sunday afternoon/evening?
I'm doing good. I don't have much to report, though.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm doing good. I low-key forgot it was summer. I just realized it was summer a couple days ago. It's been kind of a cool spring. And after not being in school, that kind of sense of finality to spring and entrance into summer isn't really there. And I was like looking out my window, and I'd been working a lot and I've been inside a lot. And I'm like, it's summer. What am I doing? So these past couple days, I bought a fishing pole. Because the only one I had before was like one for the ocean. So I bought a lighter tackle fishing pole. I've been out bird watching and hiking. I've been taking advantage of the nice weather because I was like, it's June. I didn't even quite realize that it's summer and I need to be doing cool things. So I've been doing cool things.
Nice. Next weekend, Sophia and I are going to the Smoky Mountains.
Really?
So
that's fun.
Yeah, we're excited for that.
Is that in Appalachia?
That's it's like Gatlinburg, Tennessee. So
that sounds about where in my head where I have not spent much time in that area. Yeah, that sounds about what I expect. I guess
I think
the Appalachians
that's
are their
all.
own mountain range.
But I think like Appalachia like runs through, like it like slices through basically the Midwest, doesn't it?
I think it's more east. I don't consider the Appalachia Midwest at all. I think it's more east.
Yeah, most people consider like Kansas.
It's like kind
Midwest,
of its own region. Right? Minnesota, yeah. Are you camping or are you just going in a hotel?
No, we're getting a cabin. And we have like our own private like 9-hole mini golf course. So that's going to be fun. We're like right by a lake, and so it'll be a cool time.
Bring a fishing pole.
Yeah. I don't even know if I still have a fishing pole. Like my dad just got a new one because his was like completely trashed.
Gonna be right by a lake. There is no good fishing in Flagstaff. I bought this pole and I'm like, the only place to go is Lake Mary. Like there is one spot. We got one spot that I know of. Yeah. And then there's another little like holding pond. And then it's pretty slim pickings up in like the Arizona mountains. There's not a lot of water.
Tough.
Around. So I was like, I got this, and there isn't that many places to go. Maybe I'll get a fly rod.
You drove to like San Diego that one time.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that. I just want to go like not that far away.
Right. That's
so
fair.
I don't know. If anyone has any secret Flagstaff fishing spots, DM me.
For us to go into like the caverns. It's like underground.
I need to be in the underground caverns and fishing for rockfish because I don't know.
What's that, like stonefish? It's like the most dangerous fish in the world or something.
That lives in coral reefs.
Oh, anyway.
That's not a cave thing.
Anyway, we want to talk about some sports, some basketball. The Nuggets go up 3-1. The Heat have lost both of their home games. That's tragic. You would really would have liked them to have gotten one. I mean, do we even think they're going to get another one at this point? Because this is when you would have thought, oh, maybe if they get two, it'll be like they sneak one on the road and then they get one at home. But they couldn't even get one at home. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Maybe. I don't know. They're just not as good as the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they don't have a playable player who's 6'10" even, you know, and you're going up against one of the best offensive centers of all time. I don't want to go ahead and say the series is completely over because that would be the only thing that would guarantee that it's not. But outside of that, like, yeah, we got to be a little bit realistic. I think the one thing I think that the thing I've seen talked about is like, was Denver's path easy for the finals? And like, where do they rank among teams that are, you know, like among like previous champions if they do close out the series? And I think that's been an interesting debate, but I don't have a ton to say about it.
I feel like it gets brought up like every year. It's like, oh, is this team's path to the finals too easy?
Yeah, every year in every sport, they're like, was this real or fake? I don't know why this would be a fake one for the Nuggets, right? Like, what did
like the whole point of like being able to win a championship is like, you're gonna need some breaks. Like, it's gonna have to happen, but like, no one ever has like it. There's no like Mickey Mouse championship in my mind.
Yeah, and the Timberwolves, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Heat are all in pretty good shape. It's not like Suns versus Clippers round one where it's Paul George and Kawhi Leonard out, because then it's like, okay, yeah, like of course you're gonna win that one. You got lucky. Like, I don't think the Nuggets have had a single series like that. I just think, like you said, Blaiden, it's a question that for some reason needs to be like brought up again and again and like gauged. It's like, no.
Denver's path to the finals, it's been very easy. They're one of the better champions in the last 20 years or so. They're probably top 10. But like, yeah, their path has been incredibly easy. They have not played it like Timberwolves are pretty good for an 8 seed. Suns had 4 real players, and by the end of it, 2 of them were out. Lakers were good, but it was honestly kind of a surprise that they got there, and LeBron was banged up. And then playing the Heat in the finals, yeah, that's an easy matchup. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, but
it doesn't make it fraudulent. That doesn't mean that they're not a good team, but they've had their path has not been particularly hard.
And no one is harder than these teams is the other thing. Like, what team is harder? If the Celtics were harder to beat, then they'd be here, you know? Like, if the Warriors were more real, like, they should have beaten the Lakers,
I don't think I agree with that.
I mean, the argument would be like, if the Bucks were healthy.
So you would say that the better team wins the series every single time?
I'd say most of the time. It's best of 7.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that
the Lakers
it takes
beat
away
the Warriors. Like, the Lakers were better than the Warriors. That's why they beat them. You know, if it was the Warriors, everyone would be like, because they were a higher seed going into it, right? They weren't a play-in team. Everyone would have been like, oh yes, they dispatched Curry. Instead, it's, you know, the Lakers, and everyone's like, oh, it was a low seed. But damn, they beat the Warriors, who beat the 3-seeded Kings. Like, what the hell do you want? You know, these were they made it through the gauntlet to that point. If they beat other teams, like, I don't know. I feel like that's about as hard as it gets. Would you rather them play the loser of the other series, and that's harder? Like, maybe matchup.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Do you think that the Heat are really the best? Like, do you think they would have been the toughest matchup for the Nuggets in the East? I don't think so.
I don't think it matters. I mean, they're the one who won. They're the ones who won. I don't want to say like, the Celtics would have been a real one, and the Heat are like an easy one. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, they should beat the Heat.
Oh my, yes, the Heat are a good matchup in the finals. How many? Okay, in the last 20 years, how many teams as bad as this Heat team have made the finals? I know this is like, well, it doesn't matter because they won. They won. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. Let's be honest, though.
I mean, it's, yeah, like, not that many. There are not that many finals teams in the past couple of years that are probably losing to the Heat. But at the same time, it's like, does that mean the Celtics deserve, like, I don't know. It's not like they ran through injured teams. They just ran through teams. And it's a very well-rounded NBA right now. There's a lot of parity, and that's good, right? We like when there's unexpected stuff. We don't like it when we know it's going to be Warriors Cavs, right? And then we complain when the finals are not like super team versus super team. So it's like, but sure,
that is not at all like what I am doing.
Beating the, well, yeah,
that is not even close to what I'm saying, right?
Okay, well, then it doesn't matter.
I'm just saying, I think it's an easy, I think it's been an easy run. If you want to say, well, it doesn't matter and it still counts, I'm not saying it doesn't count. I'm just saying in the grand scheme of things, this has been on the easier side of teams and like as far as like path to winning the finals. Yeah, it's on the easier side. It's okay. It's not their fault. They didn't get some like lucky injury. They didn't go like, like give LeBron an elbow or anything. They didn't do that.
Right.
But like, yeah, it's been a little bit easier for sure. And this is the reason why I think it's important is because, and I really have nothing against the Nuggets. Like I've said, I think last 20 years, they're probably in the better half of champions. I think they are that good. I think their defense has been a lot better. I do think they're really good. But people have started to talk about Denver like, dude, are they kind of unbeatable? And I think that's too far. Like people are already putting them in sort of like, is this going to be a dynasty? Is there anything that anyone can do? And while I think they have a great chance to repeat, I think this is a case of like people assuming the best for these teams and that nothing will go wrong and that no matchup will ever be harder, that nothing will never break their way like people always do. We always overestimate really good teams.
Okay,
Yeah, maybe.
I get that. That's fair. Like if the Bucks are better next year and they're healthy and you get
that's the matchup I'd
fully
really
healthy
love
Bucks
to see.
team.
I don't think they're ever. I don't know. I think the Bucks are. I'm nervous about them. They're very old. They're getting very old.
Yeah, I think we talked about that with
really old
Jokic Joestar about how their average age is like 31. Something stupid.
30, yeah,
and that's tough. But I think if you want to see a team that has more size matchup, I don't know. And I think the Heat could take another game off him. And I think having this conversation already probably, it's bad karma or energy to put out there, but I think the Nuggets are very good. I think it's been a very good run for them. I just do think they've probably had a little bit on the easier side of matchups compared to some other champions.
Yeah, I think that the talent across the league right now has been pretty evenly dispersed. I don't think that we're living in an era where it's a historic all-time stacked team like the one we've been living in over the past couple of years where it was really consolidated at the top. Mm-hmm. And then you get a team like the Nuggets who are clearly the best team in the league right now. And they're rolling through matchups that aren't necessarily going to be considered all-time teams for sure. But hey, they're the best of the year and that's what matters. It's not, the championship windows aren't played over multiple seasons. It's just 1 year, and they did what they were supposed to do. You can't say they didn't obliterate everybody. Like,
yeah,
they were playing a Lakers team and barely squeaked by them or got lucky. They swept them. They might win the finals in 5. They beat the Suns, who were probably the most talented team they've faced, maybe with KD and Booker. Like, they're the ones who gave them the most challenge. And what was that? 6? It was the Timberwolves 5-2. So yeah, they've been dispatching all these teams pretty easily.
I wonder if there's a stat for like fewest games played.
There is. It's 17.
Is it? Damn, 17.
Was that the Warriors a couple years ago?
I think it was the Warriors in like 2017 or 2018. It was in 2018. It would have been 8.
Would it? I would have thought it was 18.
Maybe in 2017, and then the first team to do it was the Lakers when they had Shaq and Kobe, and they're only
you can
okay.
You can play bad or worse competition relative to what's happened in history and still not be fraudulent at all, as long as your point differentials are good. Like if you're playing a bad team and you beat them by a lot, like you're a really good team. If you play a bad team and you barely beat them, then you might be a little bit fraudulent. And the Nuggets, their point differential is good, right? Yeah. It's not like they're doing what's expected. A really good team versus a team that's not as talented. They're up 3-1. They're sweeping teams. They're doing whatever. So I think like if we're gauging this thing in terms of like historic runs, specifically what Jokic is doing, but what the entire Nuggets team is doing should not be taken lightly or slandered based on some narrative that the league is weak right now, because even though the league is weak right now, they're doing what they're supposed to do. So yeah, that's I guess the take.
would you say the league is weak, or that it's just talent is
It's not
not as
heavy,
strong.
and if you want to win a
not top heavy,
championship,
yeah.
you'd prefer not to be playing in a top heavy league.
right?
Like I would, like playing 3 really like mediocre opponents doesn't do you all that much good if you still have to get through like some stacked super team at the end. I'd rather have the talent spread out across those 4 teams. That's easier to handle.
Today's episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by our friends over at Oakley. Express your style and build a look that's made for you. Look, I don't know how many of you all know, but I used to be a pretty avid golfer. And when I was golfing, whether it be, my visor or my shirt or, my clubs, everything I had was Oakley at that time. And I always loved the stuff that they would provide. And Oakley really is changing the game. I know Theo always talks about the colors and how it changes the colors. They're changing the game, and it's time to discover a whole new world of possibilities. Do you run, golf, train, or just want to look like your favorite athletes, Lamar Jackson or Justin Jefferson? Then you need to get yourself a pair of Oakleys today. Here at Stay Hot, we're all about look good, feel good, play good. That's why Oakley is the perfect partner for us. We don't leave the house in the morning without our Oakleys. And now with summer just around the corner, that means you need to upgrade your sunglass game now. Did you know that Oakley even offers prism lens technology? Now, what is that, you ask? It's a proprietary technology unique to Oakley, perfectly suited for both peak performance and everyday settings. Want to know more? Well, you can head on over to Oakley.com and do your own research. And while you're there, go ahead and get yourself a pair of everyday glasses that will be sure to change your look for the better. When you wear Oakley, there really is more than meets the eye. And don't just trust me. Try for yourself. I've worn a lot of sunglass brands in my life, and I can assure you Oakley is not only the best looking, but the best quality out there. So head on over to Oakley.com for more information today. Would you guys like to talk about some football?
Let's do it.
Some foosball. Theo,
Speaking of which, I watched the Champions League final
Oh, God.
for soccer the other day. Mm-hmm. What a great ending. I'm
not gonna say
Manchester City goalie. The Manchester City goalie was going crazy at the end. There were so many amazing chances that Inter Milan had in the last couple minutes of that game. And the same guy that was I was watching the World Cup, obviously, and talking about it on here. And there was one game, I can't remember what country he was representing, but there was one guy who had like 5 chances and blew them all in a World Cup game, Lukaku, I think. And I kind of forgot about it. And then in the Champions League final, this guy, it wasn't all his fault, but he missed a header and then the ball bounced off him at the end. I'm like, wait a minute. I recognize that guy. That's the guy who blew all the chances in the World Cup. And he was like right in front of the goal and blew it. And then with like just a couple minutes left or a couple even seconds left, he did it again. And I'm like, I've seen 2 games with this guy and I've seen him blow about 7 crucial chances to like win extremely important games. And
he just doesn't have that dog in him.
He's dating Megan Thee Stallion, though, so I can't feel too bad for him.
Oh, okay. So he does have that dog in him.
He does. He has a certain amount of dog in him, but not on the pitch, apparently. But a great game, and shout out European soccer, and shout out Manchester City. Shout out Stones and Grealish and Holland. They were all awesome to watch, and the goalkeeper's name is escaping me right now.
Is their season now over, or?
I have Champions League is different than all the other leagues. So there's the Italian league and the French league and the English league and the German league. And then like those are all throughout Europe. Right. And then there's the Champions League, which is just the best teams in Europe competing. So I think this is an Italian team versus an English team in Manchester City. And Manchester City is basically Golden State. Like they've got superstars all over the place. And then Inter Milan is just kind of like good defense, a little bit, maybe Nuggets Heat type of odds going into the thing, but Inter Milan had their chances, but Manchester City was just too talented and a very enjoyable ending. It was kind of like the Patriots Rams Super Bowl in the first half, where I was like, something going to happen here. But then the second half was very exciting. So shout out the Champions League. I didn't watch a single other game from the Champions League tournament until I realized that the final was happening.
Stay Hot Soccer podcast coming soon.
That's my soccer segment. Theo's soccer segment. But
Getting
into football,
Matt did a baseball segment last time, so it's it's only fair enough.
Y'all get to. If you watch a sport that's not football or basketball, every week
I'm going to be paying attention
to
once we start getting close to like Olympic track season. I'll be paying attention.
Well, if you want to ever talk about Olympic track for 5 minutes, you have my blessing. But anyway, football. What are we doing? What's on the agenda today?
We're doing Would You Rathers. We each came up with some questions. Theo, I think you have most of them. Matt and I each came up with one, and then our producer Daniel came up with one. So I think what we should just each do is just whoever's question it is, you read off the question, and then the other two people try and answer it. Right?
Yeah, it's like a mailbag, but instead of letting other people do it, we're just doing it to each other. Yes.
Yeah.
I have
so
a
Theo,
mailbag, and I'm asking
you have the first
Matt
question.
and Blaiden what they think. Longtime listener, first time caller. I have a question for you guys. If you guys were the GM of the Washington Commanders and you declined Chase Young's 5th-year option, so he's got a year left on his deal,
okay,
and the Bears call you, the Chicago Bears, and they say, look, we're in a good spot. We like our offense with Fields and Moore. We like our safety duo. We like our linebackers now. But we were not able to address the edge rusher position. Will you give us Chase Young for our 2nd-round pick? Wherever you think that ends up being for the Bears, are you giving up Chase Young to the Bears for their 2nd-round pick in this hypothetical scenario if you are Washington?
It's a tough one because, I'm a big Chase Young believer for, obvious bias reasons and whatnot. It's just difficult because here's the problem. It's like in team building, you have to not only worry about a player being really good, but you got to worry about a player being like worth what you're paying him, like good value on that contract, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say that Chase Young goes out and has like a pretty good season. He's going to demand top edge rusher money.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of worlds where you keep Young. He has a bounce back season, but he doesn't bounce back so much to where he's like one of the top edge rushers. He bounces back to where he's like a pretty good player who you have to pay like market resetting money. And that might be a contract you want to avoid. However, the problem with those types of players is you can be like, yeah, that's not good value. I'm not going to keep them, but that doesn't make them easy to replace.
Right.
So you're kind of in a tough situation there. Now, if I was their general manager, I would have picked up the 5th-year option and given myself a little bit more time to think about that. But
yeah, I didn't know you were going to give us the context of we don't have the 5th-year option. That's
his contract. He's in the last year of his deal. He's in the last year of his deal, which I think is important.
I guess that is like the real life situation that we're in.
Yes.
I was trying to scroll through Twitter and see if Brad Spielberger posted his prediction for
Sadly, you don't get to.
He's been spot on with his contract predictions as of late. So I was like, damn, maybe I can sneak one in there. No, but the contract is a big deal, but I worry that you just can't replace that kind of a guy easily. But you also already do have like a lot of assets wrapped up in your defensive line. And it's like, do you want to spend more top tier money on that position or in that unit?
Right.
It's tough. It's just like, do we lean into sunk cost fallacy or I don't know. I probably lean towards keep him.
Me too.
I think I also lean towards keep him because if you're going to decline the 5th-year option, this is kind of what happened with Daron Payne. It was a make it or break it year, and he went off, and then they signed him. And I think that's kind of the deal you're working with Chase Young is like he hasn't had too much of a shot here because he was pretty good his rookie year, and then he was on pace to be very disappointing his 2nd year, but it was cut short. Then he missed almost all of the third year, and now you're in year 4, and you're basically still where he was as a rookie. But this is his first real chance to, I think, have a full weeks 1 through 18 breakout season, because it was cut short year 2, and then that bled into year 3 pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you drafted him to be this cornerstone guy, and I think you've got this prove it deal, and I think you let that play out is my point of view. I know that he's been in trade rumors. Who knows if the Bears would actually be interested? That was just kind of the team that I thought of that is like sort of kind of hoping to be good. I assume they're kind of ready to contend for the division. I mean, last year they said like the North is ours, and then they were the worst team in football. So I'd imagine this year they're like the North is actually ours this time. I can't imagine.
And we mean it.
Well, here, so here's another question. So we're saying if we're Washington, we wouldn't take a second for Chase Young. If you're the Bears, would you be willing to give up a first?
Nope.
No, well,
no way.
No
way. And honestly, I probably would not give up a second either.
Yeah.
For a player on a one, here's the problem. If Washington is saying yes to that, that does not speak highly on Chase Young, who will then turn around and be a free agent right away.
Yeah.
Wait, so you lean towards keeping Chase Young for the second, but you also wouldn't offer him the second? Offer a second for him?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I guess so.
Yeah,
the thing about Chase Young is, I think so too. And also just a stat that I think is interesting. The Washington Commanders were 3rd in the league last year in pressure rate, rushing 4. And that's even without Chase Young, which is what I just looked up. So last year, the defensive line was pretty good, at least from a pass rushing perspective, without Young. And maybe you could move forward without him. So keep that in mind. Like, yes, he would be difficult to replace, but they haven't had him for a while. And their defensive line, their pass rush has been, with Montez Sweat and Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, pretty good anyway.
Right.
I don't know if that changes your answer at all.
It doesn't.
Nah, probably just keep him.
Good players are good players.
Because then it could be, even better.
It's like the Eagles, man. You can never have too many good. The whole NFC East, I guess, they just love their front 7. Something about it.
I would keep him. I would trade him for a first round pick, but if we're talking about like a second rounder, then
don't you think somebody would be nuts to trade a first round pick for him though?
I definitely think someone would be pretty crazy to trade a first round pick for him, but someone traded a first round pick for Bradley Chubb, I suppose.
Someone traded
I think you saw a little bit more out of Chubb, and
someone traded a first round pick for Hollywood Brown.
I think it would be crazy to trade a first, but a second I could maybe see, and if I could see a second, how crazy is a first? But I would not trade a first. Yes. I would maybe trade a second depending on the team I am. He's still pretty sick, like from he looks like Julius Peppers, and his his pass rushing productivity in terms of his timing with his hands and his array of moves, it's not where it needs to be, but I am hoping that with a contract year coming up and finally a healthy year now, 2 years removed from the injury, I think that it's going to be finally the breakout that we hope to see after year 1, or at least get back to just maybe even a little bit above where it was year 1. And you're like, okay, that's enough, at least finally, like a 10 sack year, something like that. Maybe not 15, but around 10. Those are my expectations for Young. And I think if I was Washington, I would hold on to him because, hey man, you got to contend. You're not blowing things up. Your defense is too good. You have McLaurin. So it seems like for now they're like, and you're all getting fired if you're bad this year. Like they don't have that much wiggle room. So it's like, hey man,
I'm big one. You can't blow it up.
Right. I'm not blowing it up right now. I'm hoping Brissett or Howell has something in the tank, and the defense is really good. And I think I need Chase Young
can help you keep
for that defense to be elite.
You can keep your job if Brissett's playing QB.
He was good last year.
He was. Matt, you have the second question here.
Mm-hmm.
Want to read it off for us?
Would you rather have Jared Goff for $1 million or Lamar for 50?
Definitely Goff for one.
Yeah. So then,
Yeah.
what would be the price where you would take Lamar?
What's Goff making now? Like 30?
Yeah, but that's irrelevant to the question.
Right.
Well, it's not irrelevant to this second question. Is like because right now I would take Lamar on 50 over Goff on 30.
Goff on 30.
So the number's below 30 for where I would.
Right.
Well, wait, above 30. Wait, I'm confused.
Well, no, it's below 30.
I just confused myself.
The number that I would still take Goff at is above 1 million. It's somewhere in between 1 and 30 million. At what point does it flip and you would take Lamar at 50?
I'm going to say a nice round number. I would say 20 million. I would take Goff for 20, like $30 million. You can fit basically any skill position, like non-quarterback you want into that type of price range, like anyone. And not that anyone becomes available, but that's the type of impact that $30 million can pay for one way or another. It's any free agent you want. It's a bunch of them. It's any extension. Like that gives you so much wiggle room going forward. So
the one caveat I would make to that is that Lamar also gives you the flexibility of people want to come and play with Lamar Jackson as opposed to, I'm just saying, do you think players are super excited to be
people want to come and play for $10 million too, you know?
I guess,
move that number up a little bit. People want to play for money, for more money, more than Lamar. Yeah. I would probably bet.
Yeah, but I'd rather not pay the Jags tax, like, you know, what they had to do with Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have the money to do it, though. I don't know. I just don't think I would bank on like, oh, someone is going to take a big discount to play with Lamar because they signed Odell, and it's not like he signed cheap. He signed on a bigger deal than anybody was expecting, you know? So I don't think, and Orlando Brown, he got up out of there because he didn't want to play right tackle with Lamar. I guess he went to the Chiefs, so he went to Mahomes, but it's not like he was sticking around to play with Jackson.
Bro hates Jackson to play right tackle.
He does not want to play. He is not interested in playing right tackle, no matter who's quarterback, I guess. But I just don't see much evidence that like people are coming over to play with Lamar in the same way that like Brady was getting Gronk and all his old friends from the Patriots. And you know,
I guess that's fair.
I think if there was some like, oh yeah, they want to come play with Brady, and they had Julio came over and stuff like that. So I would definitely rather have, like, I would absolutely rather have Goff for $1 million. I'm building a super team. I don't like when we saw Goff on a rookie deal, he went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So like, it's definitely possible to build that caliber of team and get that caliber of quarterback for that cheap, but get around 30 at that point. It's like, give me the guy who can really carry an offense. And that's not Goff, that's Lamar. But I think 20 million. Then I would rather have Goff around that.
So a $20 million gap?
No, like a $30 million gap. Would I rather have Goff for 20 or Lamar for 50? Give me Goff. And maybe that number even goes a little bit higher than 20. Maybe it's in between 20 and 30. But then once we get into that like low to mid 30s range, if that number at Lamar stays at exactly 50, that's when I probably start to take Lamar. But in between 20 and 30, preferably low to mid 20s, I'm taking Goff.
Well, moving on to the third question, which is from me. Given the context of let's say the Chiefs acquire Zach Wilson, would you rather start Zach Wilson for the regular season and then Mahomes for the playoffs, or start Mahomes for the regular season and Zach Wilson for the playoffs? Assuming like you make it, right?
I think Wilson for the regular season. No.
I think so too. I like the question. Wilson for the, like, you have to start Zach Wilson at some point, and it can either be the regular season or the playoffs. I think that's a funny one. But after thinking about it for a while, I was like, I think it's pretty easily the regular season.
Yeah.
Let's say it wasn't Zach Wilson. Let's say it was like Jacoby Brissett. No one would choose Mahomes for the regular season and Brissett for the playoffs, right? You always would want the better quarterback in the playoffs.
Well, that's why I chose Zach Wilson. I'm like, it's the worst quarterback in the league. You might miss the playoffs is the problem.
Yeah.
But you're not winning the Super Bowl with Zach Wilson in the play. Like, making the playoffs and then losing is not all that different than just not making the playoffs at all in this hypothetical scenario. It's like you have Patrick Mahomes. I look at it like this. There's 32 teams, 14 of them make the playoffs, right? 7 seeds in each conference. So it's a little under half of the teams going from week 1 of the regular season to the wild card round. Like almost half the teams make it that far. So there's 14 teams in the playoffs. Only one of them wins the Super Bowl. So it is way harder to win the Super Bowl once you're in the playoffs than just get to the playoffs in general, right? That your odds are just so much lower. It's 1 in 14 versus 14 of 32 or 7 of 16 to boil it down further. So yeah, I think that you have to have Mahomes trying to do the harder thing. And that's once the field gets cut down to 14, win 4 in a row. Because Zach Wilson is not. I saw Zach Wilson go like 5-2. What was his record?
Actually, I was going to say
being in the regular season.
Hold on,
Zach Wilson was stinking it up early in the season, and everyone was hyped about him. They were winning. People forget about this. Like, it was not that long ago where people were like, Zach Wilson is really turning it around, because he came back versus the Steelers. And then
Zach Wilson can't win 4 games in a row. He did win 4 games in a row this year.
Yeah, well, against
the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Packers, and the Broncos. And then they lost to the Patriots, and then they beat the Bills, and then they lost to the Patriots again.
Right. Like, these are, you could win games apparently with Zach Wilson at quarterback somehow. I don't know how, but you apparently can do it. And I just do not think versus playoff teams, he's going 4-0. And now maybe if the roster was super, super stacked, you'd say, I want Mahomes in for the regular season because then I could get the first round bye. And then I'd rather have Zach just play in the 3 versus the lowest seeds that are left.
That's interesting.
But I don't know. I just think I just look at the odds and it's like 14 teams make the playoffs. 1 wins the Super Bowl. So like, let me get Mahomes for that harder, lower odds versus better team thing to do. So Zach for the regular season, Mahomes for the playoffs. That's my answer.
Yeah.
Fair. Respect. Theo, you have the 4th question and the 5th question.
I do? Oh. Yeah. This one, we'll see. This is not a would you rather. This is a buy or sell. So sorry for breaking the format that we laid out.
Would you rather buy or would you rather sell?
Sure. There we go. Would you rather buy or sell a stock of Garrett Wilson leading the league in receiving yards?
Buy.
I'd sell.
Really? Why?
You think it's crazy to sell this guy leading the league in receiving yards?
I thought you liked Garrett Wilson, man.
I love Garrett Wilson. Leading the league in receiving yards is really hard.
It is.
Do you think he's going to be better than Justin Jefferson next year?
He could be.
Do you think he will be?
It's not unthinkable. I mean, he was like a. I think he was.
Oh, but no.
I think watching him play, he was a top 10 receiver as a rookie.
No. I'm not saying it's like unthinkable. I'm selling this because I think it's less likely than it is like likely to happen, right?
I guess. I don't know if I would say
you buy or sell Justin Jefferson leading the league in receiving yards.
I mean, I guess you could say like anybody against the field is bad. But yeah, if I had to pick, I'd pick Justin Jefferson again or Tyreek or Kupp before I'd pick Garrett Wilson. And I love Garrett Wilson. But leading the league in receiving yards, you have to get like 180 targets, man. You have to get so many targets.
I think he's going to get that many. I would totally buy this.
He's the best receiver on his team.
I don't think I'm going to buy it. I think it's possible. I think it could happen. You think it's more likely that you, or at the minimum, you
how
think
many receivers are there? How many receivers are there?
I don't think there's 5 receivers who. I don't think there are 5 receivers who have a better shot to do it than him. I think there are receivers who have a better shot, but I would buy it just on the principle of the thing. Like, yeah, probably if I had to bet on anybody, I would say probably Jefferson. But after Jefferson, I think Wilson becomes a very real person to choose. So I would probably buy it. I don't think it's like, if you would have told me like CeeDee Lamb, I'd say sell. If you would tell me even Terry McLaurin, I'd say sell. Like, there's not that many guys I would say buy for. And Wilson is one of them, just because that receiving core is pretty top heavy in that it's kind of Wilson. Like, outside of that, it's Hardman and Cobb and Lazard. And I don't know. It's Hackett and Rodgers back. So I imagine it'll look something like the Adams Packers, where he's isolated and he just gets peppered in targets. But I guess, are you about to ask if Adams
ever lead the league in receiving yards?
I don't believe that he did.
It is really hard to lead the league in receiving yards. You have to be unbelievably good. I think he's in the situation there. And like, obviously I believe in the talent as much as anybody, but dude, I could get him as top 5 guys where it's like, here's the favorites. And then Wilson's kind of the next guy who's a sleeper to be right up there with them. But to say that I think like I would bet on him over Jefferson or Kupp or Hill, I can't agree with that. I don't think he's quite there yet. He's got to prove it a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, Adams the last couple years.
Devontae was second in 2021, and he only had like 123. But that was also like Kupp went for
only
almost
had 123 catches.
Target or
he had 196 targets, 123 catches. He also missed a game the year before. He only played 14. He led the league in yards per game in 2020. So he didn't lead the league in total yards, but he averaged almost 100 a game. And I think Wilson is so talented. And I think like in that offense, I could totally see him getting a bunch of one-on-ones. Like they're going to overload one side and then have him as the X receiver. And I think Rodgers is going to look his way. I think it's going to look a lot like the Adams connection. And for that reason, with his role in that offense and the talent around him and like how far ahead he is of the tight ends and all the other receivers and even the backs out of the backfield, like I think that he is going to have a really monster season. And whether that be the league leader, I don't know, but I think he's going to be... I think he's going to be in the race.
I don't know if he's going to know it. Well, that's the question.
I would buy it for Tyree. I would say I buy Jefferson. I buy Kupp.
That's what I'm saying. There's like a few guys that like I would put like $5 in on each of them.
I would buy Garrett Wilson leading the league in receiving yards over like AJ Brown. I would buy it over Devontae, I think, with the quarterback situation.
with Garoppolo.
I would buy it over... So it's like, that's high enough for it to be a buy with me. Because if it's them versus the field, I wouldn't buy anybody.
All right. He's more likely than people think to lead the league in receiving yards. I can get on board with that take. He is not the favorite, though. And let's
he's not the favorite.
5 minutes ago, that was not the take, for the record.
Fair
when
enough.
This question
that's
was posed, that was not the take.
Okay. Fine.
I love Garrett Wilson more than anybody. I just think you're pitting him against guys who already do get those targets and already are like top 5 receivers. And it's like
we're getting into the NBA type of debate where it's just like, what does buying and selling mean?
Wilson is not yet unforgettable to me. We are getting. We're talking about what does buying mean?
Yeah, what does buying mean? Sorry, everybody.
We all love Garrett Wilson here.
Yes, we all think he could have a great season. I personally am a little bit more broad with what I mean by buy.
I fear that he won't be Rodgers' best friend and that he'll throw to Alan Lazard or something. I genuinely am concerned about that.
He already said that Wilson could be the best receiver in the league. He said that Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner are potentially the best players at their position in the league. So,
He's so right.
Iron sharpens iron. That is iron sharpens iron is real.
He never said that about Christian Watson or Romeo Dobbs.
Wow.
At least not that I remember. So I just think, look, if you think the buy or sell portion of that question was stupid, but I hope you learned something, and you should all draft Garrett Wilson in your fantasy leagues, because I think he's going to just go crazy.
Take Garrett Wilson.
I would take him at like the back end of the first round of a fantasy draft.
I'm taking
not
Travis
even kidding.
Kelce.
Oh, yeah.
Still, I'm taking Travis Kelce every day.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't take him number one
Until he
overall. I would
retires.
take Kelce above him, but he would be someone that I would take. I'd take him over AJ. Maybe that's my big take, and I love AJ Brown, but I think Garrett Wilson is in such a great position.
I can get
to just
behind
go
that.
totally nuclear. But I saw James Jones lead the league in receiving touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers. Like he gets locked onto these guys and just peppers them. Like if you can get his trust, and I think Garrett Wilson is good enough, and it seems like it's all good vibes in training camp, I think it'll happen. I think he'll be the new Rodgers friend.
Fair enough. You also have the next question.
Maybe he just leans on. Oh, yes. Would you rather be, or who has the brighter future, the Buffalo Bills or the LA Chargers?
See, I was reading this question earlier, and I was like, when you say B, do you mean I have acquired ownership of the team as
No, how about
is?
this?
Or do I have like, is it like
don't go into like, don't go into
How about this?
No, that is not the spirit of the question. Which team has a better
The spirit of the
future?
question is this. Let's say both of these teams, the GM job mysteriously opens up, and you are the hottest GM candidate on the market. And you want to look good, and you want to go to the better situation. They're both offering you the exact same amount of money. What team would you take over because you like their future, you like their roster?
Well, I like the food in LA better, so I would go there.
I like the
You
weather
are locked
better.
in your office. You cannot enjoy the amenities of the respective cities.
Okay, well then I would go to Buffalo. I believe cost of living is superior there.
No,
It's a little
no. You
lower,
are
and,
locked in your office. They've paid
They
for
have
it.
covered your cost of living.
They are both giving you prison food. Like it's all the same. The only thing that differentiates these two situations is the makeup of the team, the roster, and the coaching staff. To be perfectly clear.
I really don't know with this one. I'm really, really, really struggling with it.
It's a good question. It's an interesting one because
I think I'd
don't
go
know
Buffalo.
either. Yeah.
I think I'd go Buffalo. I think you're both in a position where you're trying to win with, now you've got these great quarterbacks. Both are in that tier 2. Any given season, Herbert or Allen could have a better year. I prefer Allen a little bit, but I think it's really close.
Right.
And outside of that, is Buffalo closer than the Chargers? Absolutely. So I don't see what leg up specifically the Chargers have. Sure, there's a lot of contracts with the Bills where you're like, oh, maybe they're like super invested with Von Miller or whatever, but I don't think they are. I think they'll get out of that. I think they'll just be aggressive restructuring contracts. I don't see why I couldn't do that as well. So I think I'd go with Buffalo. Also, I don't have Patrick Mahomes in my division, and that enough probably right there.
That's a big.
enough.
I didn't think about that. The one concern I had with the Bills was just I feel like their defense is really old, right? Like.
Yeah, I just don't think the Chargers defense is that good, though.
You're right, it's not. But like you could get into a situation where like in a couple of off seasons, like Hyde and Poyer were both banged up a lot this year. It's not unthinkable that in a couple of years you're without those guys, that you're without Von Miller, that I guess Matt Milano's not super old, but like you get the idea. Like this defense could all of a sudden not be as good as it is in the blink of an eye, but not having to go up against Patrick Mahomes in your division twice a year, that alone might just be enough, honestly.
But I also don't think the Chargers defense is that good. now.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
It's like, so potentially you could run into the problem that the Chargers already have. I was thinking they're kind of paying guys like they're paying J.C. Jackson a bunch of money. That contract is going to be tough to get out for a few years. Or Mike Williams has a big contract, or Keenan Allen has a big contract, and it's like, I don't know. I just think I prefer the Chargers or the Bills.
That's fair. I am not totally sure where I land on this, just because I think the Chargers have more young players that I'm excited about than the Bills do. I think that's true. I'm looking through it now. I like Rousseau for the Bills. He's pretty young.
Yeah.
I like Josh Allen, obviously. I would
hope.
Kyer Elam a decent amount. I like Osiris Torrance. I like Khalil Shakir, I guess. I like Salyer for the Chargers. I like Herbert, obviously. They've got Slater. They've got Asante Samuel. Derwin is not too old yet. I like that they drafted Henley, but obviously we're talking about third-round rookies at that point. I like Mike Williams, and he's not too old yet. I think there's just a little bit more young talent in LA than in Buffalo. And I think, and I like I said, I'm not super high on Buffalo's roster right now. I don't love their receiving core. Diggs is 30. I don't love their line still. And they're relying a lot on guys like Blaiden said, Vaughn and Micah Hyde and Tre'Davious White. And it's like, if those guys don't all step up, or if they regress, like, who are you really excited about on that defense? That's
I think Milano, literally all four of, like, it was Matt Milano, like the only major piece of that defense that was healthy all year.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Well, I think there's no question the Bills' defense is the one. Like, let's say you were just like starting a team, and you could pick one defense to start with, and like have, and like all their play, like, yeah, you'd go Bills, right?
I don't think so. I just like, I
think so.
Next, like, I think it's better right now, but is it going to be better a year from now? I don't know.
Is the Chargers going to be better?
I hope so. A year from now, I don't know.
That's how I would.
I'm just saying, like, why is the Chargers defense going to be any good a year from now?
I just don't think they're quite as reliant on old players. Like, the four best players on the Bills defense potentially are the guys you're banking on the most, are all in the final 2-3 years of their, like, one or two, maybe even years of their career, or at least years of their prime. And you could say that about Khalil Mack in Los Angeles, but I don't think you could say that about Derwin or Bosa or these other guys. I guess you could say it for Kendricks or Asante Samuel Jr. I don't know. I just think, like, I think that you're going to have to be in a position to make a lot of big changes in a couple years, like life post, like Diggs after 30 and a bunch of old players on defense. I don't know. I just think
I think you just don't have a Diggs in LA. You just don't have, like, yeah, the Bills are relying on old players, but we got past two players, and then that's it for the Chargers. They don't have any other like top guys. And Joey Bosa doesn't like play, man. He's awesome. Is he the most injury prone guy in his 20s in the league right now? It's ridiculous, man. It sucks, dude. I mean, I'm trying to look it up. How many games has he missed over the last 5 years? Way less than I thought. I thought he had always. He played 16. He's played 16 twice in the last 5 years. That's honestly not as bad as I thought it was. But he's incredibly injury prone, and he's what? He's going to be 28 next year. He's not the youngest guy ever. Although 28 is really not that old, but you never know. I think I'd rather be the Bills.
I don't know. That's fair. I just think the Bills, the defense is just, like, I think notably old. And it's like, if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, you're going to be looking at it like, well, now Diggs is 31 and Vaughn is gone and Trey White is, however old Trey White is at this point. And maybe Trey White is younger than I think he is. That could be true. It's just like he was coming off an ACL injury and then it was just really bad last year. So it's like this idea that he's going to be a top corner in the league again. Maybe it happens because he's younger than Bosa is, I suppose. He was just really questionable in 2022. So it's like, I don't know if he's a franchise cornerstone.
Yeah.
Mike Williams is like 1 year younger than Diggs.
Mike Williams is about to be 29. So
I think I'd
and then
easily rather
Keenan's
do Bills.
ancient. Maybe Quentin Johnston turns into a premier number one, but
My argument is taking on water here, but I just still would rather be.
If it makes you feel any better, I would never have guessed that Mike Williams is 1 year younger
than Diggs.
Diggs and Allen. And
Allen's
Eckler.
obviously old.
And
Eckler doesn't
how many
matter.
good offensive players are like below 30 on that Chargers team?
Slater, the offensive line is what excites me. I think Salyer and Slater, like I know that probably sounds like a whole lot of mid, especially when I say Salyer, but like he was actually quite good last year. So to have like two bookend tackles and then Johnston and Zion Johnson also quite young, and then Williams, like we'll see how his game ages, but then Johnston, and then the defense just isn't quite so old. Like it just isn't quite so reliant on players who have been banged up, like Vaughn coming off a major injury and Trey White coming off a major injury and Micah Hyde now coming off a major injury, and then Poyer leaving in free agency, finding no interest and then coming back to the Bills. Is like the Chargers just is like slightly. I feel like we've already seen the best days of the Bills defense. Like I think that they're gonna have to totally reinvent themselves to get back to that like top 5 type of range. I think it's about to be a bit of a downturn over these next couple of years. Whereas I think the Chargers, it's been a slow rise, but I think their trajectory is pointing up ever so slightly more than the Bills. But I don't know. It's really close. Both of these teams. That's why I thought it was such an interesting question. And I don't know. I think
it's a good question.
What I think is happening here, Theo is trying to make sure that he doubles down on his Bills missing the playoffs take.
Hey, I'm just not
he doesn't want to be acquiring a team that's going to miss the playoffs. That's fair.
That's right. I don't know. We'll see if I follow through with the Bills miss the playoffs take, but I do think that they have a real chance to not win that division.
You must make your decision.
I will make. Well,
the season starts before week 1.
And I absolutely will.
And if you say that they will, and then they don't, I will pound the table and say that you believed in them when you shouldn't have.
You're right.
So
I did with the Rams. It was even a hotter take.
You hit on the Rams.
I hit on the Rams. It was a great take, and I felt very sure about the Rams. And now, like, of all the teams that people would call me crazy for saying they'd miss the playoffs, like they would really call me crazy. The Bills are like the most enticing one to pick against.
The Bills
That's
are
where
not
I'm at.
nearly as bad as that Rams team, man.
Yeah, that Rams team.
The big difference is that Stafford was like bad and then didn't play, and then they were playing Baker Mayfield. I'll tell you that if Josh Allen's that bad, they're gonna miss.
But the AFC is way better than the NFC was last year, so it's like a little bit easier to. It's not that difficult to find 7 playoff worthy AFC teams without the Bills. I could still name 7. I could name the Dolphins, the Jets, even in their division, obviously the Chiefs and the Chargers. That's 4. And then who am I missing? The South. There's the
AFC North,
the Jaguars, and then every team in the AFC North. You could hypothetically say, except for maybe the Steelers, but Tomlin never has a losing record, so it's like you could totally see them being in wild card contention. So, whereas with the Rams last year. Yeah, whereas with the Rams last year, like, yes, their roster was worse than the Bills, but their path to the playoffs was probably still pretty easy to see among all the NFC teams last year. But their roster really wasn't that bad. That's why I said they'd have a losing record. But I will make a decision by week 1. I will do my record predictions for every team like I always do. And
who's going 2-15?
That will be... If I get the 2-15 shit wrong this year, I'm actually cursed because I'm
you have to pick a team to go 2-15, right? You cannot avoid. It. There's no 1-16 or okay.
And maybe at
this point,
and maybe to keep it going, I'll have like the Rams winning 1 game or the Cardinals winning 1 game, but like the 2-15 is like a special slot at this point. because both the Giants and the Bengals were like kind of a hot take when it had like everyone projected them to not be in the playoffs. But for me to project them to be quite that bad was like not quite your normal, like they're going to have the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
So it's like, do I keep that going or do I just go really
what team
safe
is trending
like
towards this? I'm seeing the stars align.
Oh boy.
The Raiders. The
Raiders are
could be predicted to be really bad, but Garoppolo could come in, be healthy, and they could sort of like win all the 1-score games they lost and win 10 games. That's the team.
That's the team probably. They're probably getting that 2-15 record because you say that, but I totally don't think that's gonna happen. Like even if it's
right, but like, and I'm not saying you're wrong for not thinking it's going to happen, but it's like if you pick Tampa Bay, I don't even see the path for them, but I totally see the path for the Raiders. It exists out there somewhere, and
there might be multiple 2-15 teams this year.
To win 2 games,
there might be multiple.
The stars will align.
There's a couple really bad ones
Theo
out there.
Say 2-15, they're like, all right, it's done.
I think the 2010s, there was your traditional laughing stocks, the Browns, the Raiders, obviously, the Bills. But now a lot of those teams that were so bad are kind of looking up now. And I don't think that we've been able to see like this era, like the Josh Allen, Mahomes era laughing stocks, the Herbert Burrow era laughing stocks. And I think it might be starting to come into focus that like the Cardinals, maybe the Rams, if McVay retires after a horrible season. And once again, the Raiders might be the big playoff droughts that are coming for this next decade. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
We have one more question from our producer, and then we'll move on to the listener mailbag, which is, would you rather be the Jags or the Jets?
This one's easier to me.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather be the Jaguars, right?
Definitely the Jaguars, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they have the quarterback.
Yeah, your window it's like, I think the Jets could be super good next year. Like, obviously, I just got done hyping up Garrett Wilson, but I mean, we're talking about a 2-year window versus a 10-year window here with Lawrence versus Rodgers. Like I think they're both one of those dudes right now. It's just one is way younger, and it's not like the supporting cast around these guys is terrible in one place and great in the other. I think you could probably argue Lawrence has a better supporting cast on offense. I think that you probably should argue that he has a better supporting cast on offense than Rodgers does. And then the Jets have the defense, but offense matters more probably. So,
and I like Doug Peterson as well.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think you better coach quarterback combo. You could have that for a decade. I'll take that. But I like the Jets.
Right. I do like the Jets too, but it's like it's arguable right now, and the future is absolutely inarguable that you'd rather be the Jaguars. And like right now, it's even a question. So I think this one's pretty easily the Jaguars going forward, or who I'd rather take over right now. Yeah, definitely Jacksonville. They're getting a new stadium, or at least a very updated stadium. They're up.
Fair enough.
Jets just got MetLife. We'll see.
Moving on to our listener mailbag. And again, if you want to be involved in this, make sure you can either leave questions in our YouTube comments. Sometimes we'll answer from there, or follow us on Twitter at StayHotPod on Twitter. This first question comes from King on Twitter asking, what is the most valuable NFL position outside of quarterback? I think this one's pretty easy.
I think so too.
I'm sure you could just look up PFF and they've done like better.
I mean, yeah, they have their wins.
I do agree with them on this. I know what their answer is. I think they're right.
It's probably they probably say receiver.
Corner?
It's probably receiver, and they're right if it's receiver.
Yeah, it's receiver. It is.
Yeah.
Generating, I mean, the Jamar Chase thing is like the end all be all. Like, oh my God, look how this guy, changed your life. Being able to create big, explosive plays on offense like that and draw that attention and do all that stuff, it's a game changer. I mean, you even see great quarterbacks have bad years or really down years if they just don't have the receivers. And you can see, mediocre quarterbacks have great efficiency if they can get, good receivers there. And we saw what it did to the Titans, and we saw what it did to the Eagles, like a million different examples of like, we traded for this receiver and it changed everything.
Yeah, the Dolphins, even the Jaguars with Christian Kirk, Diggs with Allen. Like, it's just happened too many times that adding an above average wide receiver has been a
it's not even an elite guy. It's just like any guy that's like good, and it's like day and night difference. It's ridiculous.
The thing is, like, I do think there are more good receivers than most other positions, but that doesn't mean they're not the second most valuable. I think, like, you have to have a good receiver if you're quarterback. That's what worries me about Stroud so much. Is like, people are excited about the Texans right now. It's like, dude, I like Mechie. I hope Mechie has a good season, but like, people are putting way too much stock in Mechie right now. What young quarterback? Trevor Lawrence sucked when he didn't have good receivers or like decent receivers, you know? Like,
right.
When have we seen a rookie come in with that kind of receiving core and like light it up year one? I think it's going to be really, really underwhelming until he gets like a better weapon than what they've got, which is why I would be all over D-Hop if I was them, just for the sake of Stroud. Like, give them someone besides Nico Collins and Mechie and whoever their tight end is to throw to. So, yeah, I definitely think you need, especially if you have a young quarterback, you need someone who's consistently and reliably open.
Yeah. From there, I would probably go like corner.
Yeah, or edge. Get to the quarterback, defend the pass. Passing is king. Anything that helps there. Edge, pass rush, pass catcher, pass defender.
Yeah.
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 So the most
helps you win on either side of the ball.
Quarterback is receiver. So
next question is from Oliver on Twitter. This one's for you, Theo. What are Theo's top 3 bugs/insects?
Bugs/insects. Is that the same thing? I would say
like critters.
My top bugs. Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not so much a bug guy than a bird guy.
I thought you were becoming a bug guy. I thought this was
right, but I'm not there yet. I don't know all these bugs. Plus, a lot of like my favorite creepy crawlies are not bugs. They're like, I like spiders, slugs, worms, scorpions. All these move me more than like specific bugs. But I would say off the top of my head, I like to see
anymore, Theo.
Well, earthworms aren't bugs, but spiders are bugs.
I like to see a June bug.
Boys.
I like to see a big June bug. I think they're funny. They're slow moving. They're not scary. I think they're kind of goofy things when you watch them like buzz by at 2 miles an hour. The praying mantis has got to be up there. Those things are sick.
That's a good one.
Those are just completely alien looking. Like this super predator on such a small scale is kind of interesting to me. Like you look at how they're built and how scary one would be if it was like 5 feet tall. They're brutal. They're brutal little things. And
go
then
watch Star Wars Episode 2 if you want to see what like.
Yeah, they got a big one. Right. That is true that they have a mantis inspired thing, and there's a reason that a creative team chose that as its inspiration. They're just otherworldly.
Yeah, it's a great choice.
And then I would probably say a stick bug, something that blends in real well. And the June bug is on the bubble. I could probably think of something better, but I do like.
What's wrong with the July bug?
I don't think that exists.
I don't.
But definitely praying mantis and walking stick, and then June bug. Maybe I could think of something better, but not yet.
Anyway, nice. All right, this last one is from Rise RHYS. I think that's Rise on Twitter. Start bench cut Jamal Murray, Jalen Brunson, De'Aaron Fox.
After the run that Murray just had, I'll put him start, bench, Fox, cut, Brunson, but they're all pretty close, kind of in the same tier. I think I value Fox's ability to get to the rim pretty highly, and he's coming off a great season. Brunson's also coming off a great season. I wonder if Murray and Brunson had switched positions in the teams they were on. That would be flipped as well. But Murray has just been he really is one of those guys who's just better in the playoffs. I really think a lot of playoff risers or playoff fallers are just like maybe the circumstances or just, a couple of runs or they get hot at the right time. I think Murray is just that guy in the playoffs. He does such a good job playing with Jokic and does every different thing you need him to. So I'll go Murray, Fox, Brunson, but it's a close one.
Yeah, this is a good question. I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to say start Murray, bench Brunson, cut Fox.
Well, I'll be the guy to start De'Aaron Fox. And then
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
Naturally. And then I'll bench Murray on the way he's been playing and cut Brunson. But I think that's all the time we have for today. I know, Theo, you have to bounce. So that pretty much wraps things up for us. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a blast. And as always, we will catch you guys on the Flippity Flop.